Hiya, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today it's gonna be a little bit of a complicated one because I'm gonna try really hard not to get into a crazy amount of detail, but give you guys good information. So, as you can tell by the title, pointing in the right direction this time. I am talking about managing locks with seborrheic dermatitis. Seborrheic dermatitis is a condition that I have personally lived with my entire life. As far back as I can remember, when I was growing up, I just thought I had ridiculous dandruff and that no one else suffered with. As I was old, or not as I got older, in my older age, I learnt that I had seborrheic dermatitis. It is one of the things that kind of put me off for a little while getting locks, because I'd always hated getting braids when I was younger because I knew they wouldn't last long, because my dandruff would be really bad within a week. But clearly I've learned how to manage it. I have my locks and it is manageable. So for those of you that are suffering with seborrheic dermatitis and are worried about getting locks, or have locks and not sure how to manage it and it's making you want to end your lock journey, please don't. I'm here to give a bit of an explanation and tell you how I manage it, and hopefully that will help you guys. As always, trusty notebook. I'm going to be referring to it a lot because I try to make sure I had everything in the most simple way of explaining. So I'll start with the definition. Okay, so the official definition of seborrheic dermatitis. Right, so dermatitis is red, itchy, flaking, inflamed skin. Seborrheic means that the rash affects the greasy skin zones, so sebaceous skin zones, where you get your sebum coming from, such as the face, the scalp, and the center of the chest. Seborrheic dermatitis is very common, and many people don't even know they have it. Overall, it has been reported to affect about 4% of the population. This is the UK that I'm referring to in terms of the figures. Overall, it's been reported to affect about 4% of the population, and dandruff, which is mild seborrheic dermatitis of the scalp, can affect almost half of all adults. It can start at any time after puberty and is slightly more common in men. Babies can also get a short-lived type of seborrheic dermatitis in the scalp, known as cradle cap, and nappy area, which usually clears up after a few months. So, if you have dandruff, you suffer with dandruff, but it's not anything that's crazy. It's a mild form of seborrheic dermatitis. If it's really, what's the word? I'm losing my words. If it's something that flares up, it's affecting your life, it's more likely to be, a more severe version of seborrheic dermatitis. For me personally, I can wash, if I'm not staying on top of my routine, I can wash my hair and have fat chunks, big flakes of dandruff coming off within 48 hours. I haven't washed my hair in weeks and it's really dry. That's what happens to me if I don't stay on top of the routine that I've built up. So seborrheic dermatitis affects me personally on my scalp. It also affects me in my eyebrows, and it affects me in my ears. It affects, my scalp all over. It's not consistently all over. I have patches. So I've got patches in my undercut. I have patches that I'm aware of, because obviously I can't see all over here, but I have patches that are in the, my edges area where it's kind of my little semicircles of baldness. It's in there, and so I don't know, I haven't done enough research and reading to see if the seborrheic dermatitis can cause forms of alopecia, but it's definitely in those zones where I have it is probably one of the worst areas, in those semicircles of baldness, as I call them. So that's how it affects me, and that is the official definition of seborrheic dermatitis. Now, what causes seborrheic dermatitis is an overgrowth of yeast. This yeast, let me try and get the name right, pronounce it properly, is called Malassezia. I think that's how you pronounce it. Now, that yeast, Malassezia, everyone has it on their scalp. It's not you got yeast on your scalp. Everyone's got it. It's present on everyone's scalp. However, for some people, like myself, it overgrows. It's just goes crazy. And so seborrheic dermatitis is not curable, but it is treatable and you can manage it. Now, how it shows up for people with locks, or what's really frustrating for people with locks, is that because we can't wash our hair to the same extent, or like, you know, you see, I don't know if you've ever seen it, I'm a weirdo, so I've seen it on YouTube plenty of times, where people kind of like have like dandruff flakes and they comb them out. Now, to me, that can be really satisfying because I know what it feels like to have them things that you just comb them out, but you can't comb them out with locks. So it gets frustrating because you can end up getting those flakes, the skin flakes, stuck into your locks, and it gets really hard to wash them out. So that's how it can present and be really frustrating and detrimental to your lock journey. Like I said before, I used to hate styling my hair in braids. I hated cornrows. I remember I didn't mind weave. When you remember you used to get the tracks, I didn't mind that because if I had a few tracks in, I could still wash the rest of my hair. But things like crochet braids, I only did that once because, you know, it was like a week later and I'd have to like, before I did the research and understood how Malassezia, you know, multiplied and stuff like that, I used to just chuck loads of oil on my hair all the time, and the oil would make my hair itchier, but all I cared about was the fact that you couldn't see these huge flakes coming off my head, and the oil would mask that. When it comes to hair journeys, I'm trying to be really focused because I could go on a tangent about fungal acne and all kinds of other things related to Malassezia yeast, but pertaining to locks and your hair, when you want to treat or avoid the proliferation, is that the right word, of the yeast on your scalp, you need to avoid fatty acids. So the best way to explain this is avoiding oils and butters. If you've already seen my wash day routine, you would have heard me talk about the fact that I only use MCT oil. Most oils, because there's a few exceptions, most oils contain triglycerides. Triglycerides are a glycerol. It looks like a fork in the diagram, right? It's a glycerol with 3 fatty acids, right? And the fatty acids look like a fork. So it looks like this is the glycerol here, and it's joined by 3 fatty acids. No, don't start explaining fatty acids, right? Just follow, just stay with me, okay? So you've got the glycerol and the 3 fatty acids. Now these are, they're chains that link the fatty acids together, right? Now these chains come in a certain number. Most oils, the number of chains that they have, right, feed the Malassezia yeast, okay? So anywhere between chains 11 to chains 24 will feed that yeast and cause the overgrowth and lead to, you know, seborrheic dermatitis. So what you need to do in terms of treating your hair and being able to have your locks and let them flourish is avoiding anything that contains those chains 11 to 24, right? You want to avoid that completely. Most oils have those triglycerides within that chain number in them. Jojoba oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, hemp seed oil, argan oil, shea oil, every oil that we know that we have used happily through our lock journey, through our natural hair journey since childhood, contains those triglycerides, contains those fatty acids. What you can use are certain medium chain fatty acids. So those ones are like long chain fatty acids. What you can use are certain medium chain fatty acids. There are 3 oils that are not going to feed that yeast. They are mineral oil. Yeah, mineral oil, the byproduct of petroleum that everyone says is horrible and it's terrible. Mineral oil. Squalane oil, and I mean squalane with the let me make sure I'm spelling it right. Squalane, so not squalene with the E, squalane as in L-A-N-E, squalane oil. And the last one is what I mentioned I used in my wash day routine, is MCT oil. MCT oil is extracted, or a form of fractionated coconut oil. Coconut oil by itself, no. But a form of fractionated coconut oil that is purely caprylic acid, which means that it doesn't have any of those long chain fatty acids between 11 and 24 that are going to affect your, feed the yeast on your scalp. So those 3 oils are the ones you can use. Keeping that in mind, it means kind of like 95% of hair products are a no-go for you if you have seborrheic dermatitis. That sounds really frustrating, but as a lock person, you don't need to be using that many products in the first place anyway, which is why I say I have a very, very pared back list of things that I use in my locks. So keeping that in mind, right, I've tried to shorten the explanations as best I can. Keeping that in mind, what you need, if you have seborrheic dermatitis and locks or natural hair at all, what you need is shampoo, something to treat the fungus, because not using those 3 oils, the squalane, the MCT oil and the mineral oil, will not feed it. So you're not going to make it any worse. Whereas chucking any other oils on there will make it worse because you're feeding it. But it's not getting rid of it. It's just not feeding it, right? So you need shampoo to cleanse your hair. You need something to treat it, to kill that yeast, kill the fungus. And then you need something in terms of keeping your hair nice, something to moisturize, something to seal. Okay, so that is what you need. That's what the criteria you're trying to fill. Now for me, because I've managed to get my seborrheic dermatitis under control, I can use a shampoo that is not necessarily safe for seborrheic dermatitis users. Like I said, I use Head and Shoulders 2-in-1. There are shampoos available that you can use that are safe, that don't have any of the ingredients that's going to feed that Malassezia yeast. I'm really sorry, I can't pronounce the word properly. Now, if your seborrheic dermatitis is not crazy, because there's some people that it affects their whole face, their whole body, their arms, everything. If it's really crazy, I would say avoid anything that is going to feed that yeast. If yours is mild to moderate, or you've managed to get it under control and you're okay, then I would say in terms of the shampoo, you'd be all right. So like I said, I use the Head and Shoulders 2-in-1 shampoo, which I pick because it's a dandruff shampoo. So in some ways, at least it's doing something. That's how I see it. I use that shampoo. I'm going to put a picture in here somewhere. Then I use Nizoral. Nizoral is, let me make sure I pronounce the word properly. It's a treatment. So it comes in the form of a shampoo, but it's actually a treatment. Its active ingredient, that's it, that's what I'm trying to find. I can't pronounce it properly. Ketoconazole. Ketoconazole is the active ingredient within the Nizoral shampoo. That is one of the things that you can use, one of the ingredients that you can use to treat seborrheic, not treat, but to get rid of the yeast, like to reduce the amount or get rid of it, kill it. It is an antifungal ingredient. So you can get that as a form of medication. Sometimes I believe they can do it like an oral pill or whatever. But if you don't want to go to your doctor and do all of that craziness, you can get Nizoral shampoo or other shampoos that contain ketoconazole. In Nizoral, it's a 2%, and use that as a treatment. Now, the way you're supposed to use it is when you first start using it, you need to use it like 2 or 3 times a week for a month to get everything under control. And then you can do like what I do, where I use it like once every couple of weeks, just to make sure it's not, becoming crazy again. But it's an ongoing thing. It's not a curable thing. It's something like maintenance treatment. You use that. Now for your moisturizing and sealing, I use water with glycerin, which is fine. Glycerin does not feed the yeast. And then I seal with MCT oil, which is a form of coconut oil, fractionated coconut oil. If you want to find it, if you want to use MCT oil specifically, you can Google MCT oil, and it's what keto dieters use in their bulletproof coffee. So it's quite widely available, but it can be expensive because it's known as like a keto food thing. You can also Google and look for caprylic acid. I'm going to try and write all the names here as I'm talking. Caprylic acid is basically what MCT oil is. Some MCT oils also contain lauric acid. These are both like fatty acids. Some MCT oils contain lauric acid, and you don't want that. That's not one of the good ones. So you can either Google for MCT oil and read and make sure it's just caprylic acid or capric acid, or you can do the same looking for fractionated coconut oil, or you can just Google caprylic acid or capric acid. I'm gonna write the names because I'm really crap at pronouncing them, but that's what you want. And I use that on my scalp. If I want to oil my scalp, I use that to moisturize and seal. So when I spray in the water and glycerin, or sometimes I spray rose water and I seal with that oil, that's how I maintain my hair. There are products available online that you can use that are safe for your hair, for your locks, to maintain them. If you want to use more treatments or more products, there are things you can find, but they do tend to be a bit more obscure and a bit more on the expensive side. Now, I hope that some sense has been made with this, but I am going to link below a website that has helped me enormously over the years. Sorry, camera cut off. That's helped me enormously in understanding and getting my head around seborrheic dermatitis. I have really tried to keep it surface level, but make it understandable. But I'm going to link the website below. They are called Simple Skincare Science, and it's a guy, I believe, that works somehow in, you know, chemistry or physics, something like that, but has spent a lot of time and invested a lot of time into explaining it. Also for people with seborrheic dermatitis, but also for people with fungal acne, which sometimes tends to go hand in hand. So that's how I've managed to get my skin clear is, I mean, I've got makeup on right now, but I suffered for a long time with really annoying tiny little whiteheads on my skin, not knowing they were linked to the same Malassezia yeast on my face. And so I'm going to link that below, and if you want to read more, you can Google, you can go to his blog and read lots about it. But I did just want to make this video because I've seen loads of people talking about having dandruff when you have Locs and use ACV and use this oil and use that, and it gets frustrating because I'm like, that is not helping, you're just making it worse. So I wanted to put this out there to be a bit more educational, so guys, you guys can understand how seborrheic dermatitis works, what feeds it and what to avoid. Now, it can be a bit disappointing to think like, oh, I need to chuck out everything I have, but for the sake and sanity of your scalp, this is what it is. I'm used to it now because I've been managing my hair this way for about 2 years now, so I'm okay, I'm fine. But I know at first, especially if you're like someone that's used to using loads of products and trying to find out why does my hair itch if I put this oil in and all that, it can be a bit frustrating, especially as we know our products are expensive and we've invested a lot. We've probably got a whole cabinet full of stuff and now you've got to throw it all out. But for the safety and sanity of your scalp and keeping a healthy scalp as best as you can as a seborrheic dermatitis sufferer, this is kind of what you have to do. So I'm really hoping this video has made sense. If you have any questions at all, please do put them in the comments below. Reach out to me on Instagram because I'll try to do loads of reading on this over the years, and I will try to help you. I'll try to point you to resources that I've found useful, and yeah, I hope it's been helpful. Until the next video, bye.